What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And on this broadcast, I'm going to be presenting some potential trade options for the New York Yankees. We're going to go from the unrealistic all the way to realistic possibilities the Yankees could trade for. Now, obviously, we're going to begin unrealistically with the best player in baseball right now, and that is Shohei Otani. When you look at the year that Otani is having, it is absolutely incredible. He is on a pace right now to defeat Aaron Judge's home run record in the American League. This is a player that right now, when you look at his baseball reference page, WAR of 6.2, 31 home runs, 296 batting average, 383 on base percentage, 650 slugging. He's got 68 RBIs, 11 stolen bases, and he's 177 in OPS plus, with 100 being league average. Then when you take a look and you swing over to his pitching, this is just as incredible as everything else. In 100 innings of work thus far this season, Shohei has an ERA of 3.22 and a FIP of 4.03. He's got an ERA plus of 133. Again, 100 is league average. This is a guy who has absolutely demolished the baseball on both ends of it. 132 strikeouts on the mound. This is an incredible season that we're watching from Shohei Otani. So obviously, everyone, if he's made available, would inquire to see what it would cost. And it obviously would cost a lot, which is part of the reason why it's an unrealistic opportunity for the New York Yankees. There's no doubt about it. Would they love to have Shohei Otani? 100%. Being able to infuse a left-handed bat into that lineup, the caliber of Otani, as well as being able to infuse even more life into a starting rotation that is now a point of struggle. The bullpen has been absolutely phenomenal for the Yankees, no doubt about it. But when you look at the starting rotation, yes, we're getting Carlos Rodon back, but we're also hearing rumors of Nestor Cortez potentially coming back after the All-Star break. But when you look at the absolute blow-up that Luis Severino had, the fact is that you never really know what you're getting from Clark Schmidt, from Domingo Germán. And then we're having to call up guys like Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez, who you never really know what you're going to get. Being able to infuse a huge bat in the lineup, especially with the injury to Aaron Judge right now, on top of him being a left-handed bat, on top of being able to be an arm on the mound, there's no doubt about it that Shohei would be an absolutely incredible asset to add to this team. But again, it's an unrealistic option. So we move on to the second unrealistic option, and that is the second best left-handed bat that is likely to be available on the market, and that's Juan Soto. When you look at a guy like Juan Soto, you can add him to this mix and absolutely see where he could benefit the Yankees in a tremendous amount of ways. This is a player who has a tremendous on-base skill, and in Yankee Stadium would absolutely rake. Right now, if you look at his baseball reference page, a 3.7 WAR, 15 home runs, 272, 426, 490 slash line, and an OPS plus of 157. 15 home runs, 47 RBI, 6 stolen bases for Juan Soto. But I think the biggest thing of it being a left-handed bat, especially at Yankee Stadium, would truly make Juan Soto's bat even that much more potent and powerful. You also add in another lefty bat to help balance this lineup. And you think about this lineup when Judge comes back, you can have it mixed and match any number of ways. You have Volpe leading off, Judge hitting second, Juan Soto hitting third, a hopefully hot Giancarlo Stanton hitting in the cleanup spot, Rizzo hitting fifth. Now you're really lengthening out that line of Harrison Bader hitting sixth. This is a team that really now starts to put things together in a very big way. You can even have it where you have Glaber lead off and Volpe hitting seventh. There's a number of ways that if you add in a guy like Juan Soto into the middle of that order, this team can truly start to pound the baseball the way that we expect them to be capable of. Something that has really plagued them, especially since the injury to Aaron Judge, has really shown itself to be that much more true. This is a very feeble-looking offense when they're all cold. Obviously, you don't expect the team to have all of its major hitters being cold at the same time, but that's exactly what we're experiencing right now with the New York Yankees. So no doubt about it that there's a lot of questions that have to be answered with this team, offensively speaking. But if you add in a bat like Juan Soto, you absolutely can find a way to be able to start putting together more competitive at-bats, which is something that has really been plaguing the New York Yankees. Their at-bats look feeble, they look weak, and they look uncompetitive, which is the biggest problem that I have right now with the way that this team is going about things. Without Aaron Judge in that lineup, being able to battle, see pitches, force pitchers to kind of have to go out of their comfort zone, give in a little bit more than they want to because of not wanting to groove one, knowing he's going to be able to hit that ball out of the stadium. When you don't have that fear in the lineup, you really don't have to put the pitcher on his heels, and that allows him to be able to really maximize his opportunities. Just look at what happened to the Yankees over the past 2 games of the Baltimore Orioles series. They should not have been made to look as feeble as they were by those 2 Oriole pitchers, but they were. And it's because they were having uncompetitive at-bats. Juan Soto always gives you a competitive at-bat. He's always looking to work the count. He knows his strike zone extremely well. I've coined the statement before. It's been coined about him before. But when you look, this is the modern-day Ted Williams. His ability to know the strike zone, know his strike zone, and recognize pitches that are just on the edge. You really allow him to put his stamp on the game. On top of that, could you imagine the level of the Soto shuffle, that the way that can build that animosity with opposing teams and opposing pitchers, especially in big moments, high leverage moments? The Yankees have to get back to being the bad guys of baseball. And when you bring in a guy like Juan Soto with his confidence, we'll say, that can absolutely put that back into the New York Yankees pocket, which allows them to start playing better baseball. Because I've said it all along, and I genuinely believe it, when the Yankees are the villains of baseball, that's when they're at their best. But that being said, Juan Soto is going to cost a lot, and I don't know how much the Yankees are going to be willing to give up from their farm system to be able to acquire a guy like Juan Soto. But nevertheless, Soto is a potential option, but an unrealistic option in my opinion. Now, as we get to the third and final unrealistic option, it is Shane Bieber. Now, Bieber is likely going to be available. I don't think that the Guardians are really going to be able to sustain the slight run that they're on right now to be able to try to get back into the top of that division. That being said, it's a very winnable division. If you've listened to the Baseball Banter Broadcast podcast, you've heard me just completely rail on both the National League and American League Central divisions. Not a lot to be excited about if you're a fan of any of those teams, other than the fact that any one of those teams outside of the Royals are going to have a shot to be able to try to compete for the division title. Now, when you look at what the Guardians could potentially get back for a guy like Shane Bieber, that's what makes this an unrealistic option, in my opinion, for the New York Yankees. Not that he wouldn't necessarily be available, but I think that other teams are going to offer better packages to the Guardians to be able to acquire his services, which is what, in my opinion, makes it an unrealistic option for the New York Yankees. Could they try to put together something where it could be favorable for the Guardians to make that deal? Sure. But is it more likely that they'll get a better deal from somewhere else? 100%. And that's what makes him an unrealistic option for New York. Now, as we get into the conditional options for the New York Yankees, we begin with Cody Bellinger. Now, I've already put together a video here on the channel about Cody Bellinger and why he could be a very good fit for the New York Yankees, why I believe they should try and target him. But what makes him a conditional option is the Cubs and whether or not they find themselves playing back into the divisional race. And at the time of this recording, the Cubs find themselves in a position where they are 8 games out of the division in the National League Central. But again, any one of the teams in that National League Central could walk away with the division. So because of that, it is not a guarantee that Bellinger is going to even be available to the Cubs, being made available by the Cubs, I should say. And if the Cubs decide to make him available, I do think that the Yankees should look into him. One, his versatility, being able to play all over the outfield, especially his talent in terms of being a good defensive outfielder. Could you imagine an outfield of Bellinger in left, Bader in center, and a healthy Judge in right? That is a dynamic outfield. Not to mention he's a left-handed bat who could absolutely demolish baseballs at Yankee Stadium. No doubt about it. Bellinger has the ability to play in the big market. He did so for the Dodgers and did so well for several years. Yes, he found himself injured and not playing to the same capabilities. That's why he got released, why he was able to sign on with the Cubs and started off having a good season before he got injured again. And that is the big concern for the Yankees as well. Injuries have been plaguing this team all season, and acquiring a guy like Cody Bellinger could mean more injury-plagued players on this roster. But a healthy Cody Bellinger could truly help the New York Yankees in a very, very big way. Now, the next conditional offer is conditional on two things. One, with the St. Louis Cardinals continuing to fall out of contention this season and having to resort to something that they have not done throughout the entire tenure of John Mozeliak, and that's starting to sell pieces off. We've already covered what's going wrong with the St. Louis Cardinals here on the channel, so definitely check that out. I will leave links to that and the Cody Bellinger video down in the show notes below. But the conditional option for the New York Yankees would be potentially acquiring Nolan Arenado and Lars Nootbaar. When you look at what this team needs right now, they need a consistent, solid presence in the infield at third base, as well as in left field. This deal could potentially serve both of those options. Yes, the conditional part for the New York Yankees would be either trading Josh Donaldson and or designating him for assignment. Now, I think that it is less likely if they just DFA Donaldson because of how much money would be left on the books. But if the Yankees were to package Donaldson and send him back to St. Louis as part of the financial exchange for Nolan Arenado's contract, this could be a tremendous fit for the New York Yankees. Nolan is a much more consistent at bat. Even though he's having a down season, he's still going to be a better player overall than what we've seen from Josh Donaldson in the time that he's been a New York Yankee. On top of that, the struggles of DJ LeMahieu have been absolutely bewildering. Mark DeRosa on MLB Network, on MLB Central a few weeks ago, put together a video package and said that he doesn't think that LeMahieu is all the way healthy. And I agree. I think that when you look at the way that he is collapsing on his back foot, and this was what DeRosa brought up, that there seems to be no power left in his bat. He's falling, he's collapsing in on that back foot, and if you watch his at-bats, even from routine singles to doubles in the gap, he's struggling to be able to put any real effort into the ball, and especially lifting the ball. LeMahieu's always been a ground ball type hitter, right? He's never really been a guy who's going to, lift and separate and really start to drive the ball out of the ballpark in a big way. Most of his hits are going to be ground balls and line drives, but there's no power behind those. And right now he's collapsing on each and every single time he steps into the batter's box. If you look, and the broadcast team of Michael Kay and Paul O'Neill brought it up last night on the broadcast with the Orioles, that LeMahieu in 2022 had 71 strikeouts through 500 and something at bats. He's at half of that and already has those 71 strikeouts. He does not look like the same hitter. And part of that reason, in my opinion, is because he doesn't have a back foot to land on. The Yankees are going to need something serious at that third base position. Josh Donaldson is not the guy to do it. I don't think that he's going to be a Yankee beyond this year, even though there is an option or something of that nature to the contract. I think the Yankees are going to buy him out, and that's going to be the end of it. So why not try to get something back in return, send him to the Cardinals, and try to make a deal work with Nolan Arenado and Lars Nootbaar. Now, again, conditional and probably more of an unrealistic option for the New York Yankee than a conditional option. But I think that there is something that could be worked out with how poorly the Cardinals have been playing this season and some of the moves that the Yankees need to make to be able to improve this team. Now, the next conditional option is based on the Rockies eating a ton of money, and that is Kris Bryant. I think that when you look at Kris Bryant and what he could be in Yankee Stadium, once again being paired with a guy like Anthony Rizzo, this could be a very good fit for the New York Yankees and even a better fit for Kris Bryant. I think that since he's gone to Colorado, he really hasn't been able to find his footing. He was kind of put into a position where he was supposed to be the guy as instead of a complimentary piece. I think if you put him in that lineup in the Yankee Stadium, his ability to be able to drive the ball the opposite way is going to be able to help him. Is going to be able to help the Yankees with his versatility, being able to play all four corners, first, third, left, and right. You can put him out there in center field in a pinch. And I think that for Bryant, being able to be reconnected with Rizzo, I think that chemistry is really going to be able to balance and really play well in the Yankee clubhouse. Again, an opportunity where maybe you can move him back into third base and get rid of Donaldson as well. Maybe package him as far as that deal is concerned as well. Have the Rockies pick up some of that money. Again, a deal that may be a little bit more unrealistic than conditional, but nevertheless, that is something that the Yankees could potentially look into this trading deadline season. Part of that deal I would also look to for the Yankees is to bring in Kyle Freeland as well. Being able to have a left-handed pitcher in Yankee Stadium has always been a benefit to New York, and being able to add another one to be able to solidify the back end of that rotation. And you think about the way that, again, Severino has been struggling this year. You have a rotation of Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez when he's healthy. You bring in a guy like Kyle Freeland who could fill in the back end of that rotation, then you wouldn't necessarily have to rely on Severino quite as much. Guys like Domingo Germán, Clark Schmidt, quite as much as well. So being able to potentially put together a deal, bringing in Bryant and Freeland could really benefit the New York Yankees. Again, a bit more unrealistic than the conditional side of things, but there could be a potential move there. And the last conditional offer is very similar to what's happening with the Cardinals. But if the San Diego Padres continue to fall out of contention, they may be more inclined to move a guy like Blake Snell. For the Yankees, this is a guy they've seen in their division. They know he can be successful and talented in that division. And being able to acquire his services could be very, very much a possibility for the New York Yankees, being able to add in another left-hander like I just spoke about Kyle Freeland, but this one is having an even better season. So I think that for New York, being able to kind of see what kind of deal they could potentially line up with for a guy like Blake Snell could really help them in the long run. I know that pitching has not really been the problem for New York this season. It has been the offense, but if you can get some guys who are really rolling on par, especially for the postseason, which the Yankees are still in the postseason picture as it stands right now. So if you can limit that where you can have the top three, top four guys being Cole, Rodon, Cortez, and Blake Snell in a short series and a 7-game series, best of 7, that's a very, very dominant lineup to be able to run out there for the postseason. So I think that when it comes to New York, yes, they've been struggling throughout the regular season as we would not like them to see, but this is still a team that is built for the postseason, and being able to be fully stocked and set up for that could be very beneficial to this team. Now, as we get into the more realistic options for New York, they need an outfielder. They need more offense. Lane Thomas has been having a very good season for the Washington Nationals. With Washington being as terrible as they are, as far out of contention as they are, Thomas could be available. While, yes, he is younger in terms of what the Yankees would have, he's on the older end of what the Washington Nationals have on their roster. At 28, going to be 28 years old, this is a player who could truly benefit the New York Yankees, and being able to have a consistent, real outfielder allow IKF to go back to the bench to be the super utility guy, to mix and match, to pinch run late in games, maybe be able to come in for defense if needed. But being able to have a real outfielder in those games has been a truly glaring spot for New York. Left field has been an absolute black hole, an absolute void of everything. So being able to get a real outfielder out there would truly benefit the New York Yankees. And again, the Nationals are not in it. They're not going to be in it. So this is a player who definitely could be potentially available to the New York Yankees. And as we round out, the last and final realistic option would be another starting pitcher from the Cardinals, and that's Jordan Montgomery. Reuniting with Monty could be beneficial to the New York Yankees. Monty is having the best season of any starter for the Cardinals, and that may not sound like a lot because the whole team is struggling, but Monty is having a solid year. He's got 98 innings on the season, 91 strikeouts, a whip of 1.23, and an ERA of 3.28. So this is a guy who could come back into New York. He knows the environment, and now with the kind of command and the way that the Cardinals kind of changes mentality in terms of pitching, using that four-seamer a little bit more, This is a player that could come back more confident and better than what we sent him away in last year's trade. And could you imagine being able to reacquire the player that we got Harrison Bader for? This could be a very easy deal to make for the New York Yankees and something that could potentially help them in that postseason run. And as well, being able to kind of limit how much we're using Luis Severino, because at this point, the player that we've seen since he has come back off the injured list is not at all the player that we want. So this could be a potential avenue for the New York Yankees to be able to try to make something else work and look to be able to boost this team in a different way. So I know this was a lot of information, a lot of different potential trade partners for the New York Yankees, trade options for the New York Yankees, but I want to hear from you. Let me know if there's any other players that you could think of that the Yankees could potentially acquire. Let me know if they're realistic, conditional, what that condition might be, or a realistic possibility. So definitely let me know that down below. And we can continue the discussion over on Twitter at banter_baseball. You can find us on all our social media outlets at Baseball Banter Broadcast. We're everywhere, so definitely look for us as we continue to try to build this baseball community and family. So thank you for tuning in. Keep it locked in here at the Baseball Banter Broadcast by hitting that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications. And I'll catch you guys when we continue to banter about baseball. Peace.